Netflix dropped it without warning. No countdown, no teaser, just a notification ping that spread like wildfire. Within seconds, millions were staring at their screens, jaws dropping, fingers hovering over the pause button, trying to process what they were seeing. The footage was titled simply, "The Reckoning, Diddy Uncovered." But the implications were anything but simple. For Diddy's team, this was more than a shock, it was a nightmare materializing in real time. Inside the sleek, glass-walled offices of Diddy's management team, chaos erupted almost instantly. Phones buzzed nonstop, alerts, emails, texts, every device seemed to scream at the same time. His lead attorney, Marcus Linton, was the first to process the footage. He watched a clip where Diddy's earlier statements to the media were subtly but unmistakably contradicted. His eyes narrowed, jaw tight, realizing that what was previously a carefully constructed narrative was now in jeopardy. The social media storm was immediate. Hashtags exploded worldwide, number Diddy exposed, number The Reckoning, number Netflix bombshell. Influencers broke down the footage frame by frame. Every movement, every word, every expression was dissected, analyzed, and debated. The internet was not just watching, it was interrogating, judging, and amplifying every possible implication. Diddy's carefully curated public persona was now under an unprecedented microscope. Meanwhile, inside the office, the atmosphere was tense, almost suffocating. The PR team huddled around glowing monitors, taking in the digital firestorm. Social analysts were already generating live reports on trending keywords, sentiment scores, and viral metrics. The room smelled of stale coffee and anxiety. The staff who had once thrived on managing crises now felt powerless against the wave that Netflix had unleashed. Now it's your turn. What did you think of this explosive documentary? If you were the judge overseeing this case, would you pause to investigate every new piece of evidence, or would you deliver the maximum sentence immediately? Or if you were in Diddy's shoes, how would you handle this chaos? Comment below with your thoughts, don't hold back. Share this video with friends who need to see it. Hit subscribe for more breaking updates. And let's see how the world would weigh justice in a case that refuses to stay quiet. Your opinion could spark the next big debate around one of the most shocking documentaries ever released. Diddy himself arrived shortly after the footage dropped. His presence, usually commanding, seemed subdued. He scanned the room, noting the frantic typing, the whispered discussions, and the ever-growing online chatter. For a man used to controlling the narrative, this was a moment of vulnerability. Marcus stepped forward, voice calm but edged with urgency. "We need to see the full footage, now. We need to catalog every contradiction, every single one." It was a stark reminder of the stakes. This wasn't just a PR hiccup or a minor misstatement, it was potentially a legal and reputational earthquake. The team realized that every statement Diddy had ever made, every interview, every social media post, was about to be scrutinized with a new lens. What they thought were secure defenses could now unravel in front of millions. An assistant pulled up side-by-side comparisons on a large screen. Clips of Diddy speaking in past interviews blinked against the Netflix footage. Small discrepancies emerged. Phrasing, tone, body language, and even subtle hand gestures. The team began cataloging them, creating folders, time-stamping every frame that could later be questioned. Anxiety deepened as they realized the implications were more severe than initially imagined. The room's mood oscillated between disbelief and panic. One staffer whispered, "They're going to tear this apart. Social media won't let it go." Another muttered, "If this leaks further, there's no coming back." Marcus remained silent, mentally preparing the next steps: legal analysis, media strategy, and potential damage control. Yet even he could not ignore the undeniable truth: the narrative they had so meticulously crafted was under siege. Outside the office, the world reacted in real time. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, analysts debated it on live television, and fans dissected every frame on TikTok and Twitter. The footage didn't just contradict statements, it challenged perceptions, reignited past controversies, and made every prior defense seem questionable. For Diddy's team, it wasn't a matter of if they would respond, it was how, and fast. By midnight, the team convened an emergency meeting. The energy was palpable, almost electric with tension. Marcus outlined the stakes, emphasizing that every choice now mattered, both legally and publicly. Diddy, usually a commanding presence, sat quietly, absorbing the magnitude of the situation. His PR lead, Vanessa Cole, nervously scrolled through live social sentiment, grimacing at every trending hashtag. The consensus was clear. The release had not just disrupted their strategy, it had detonated it. As the team prepared for long hours of analysis, debates, and rapid decision-making, one question hung in the air like a shadow. Could Diddy's carefully controlled empire of image and influence survive a public revelation this stark and sudden? Every second that passed brought new viral clips, new interpretations, and new pressure. And outside, the world waited, hungry for answers, unaware that the crisis inside those glass walls had only just begun. The morning after the release, the footage had gone viral beyond anything Diddy's team had anticipated. Every clip, every nuance, was being dissected by fans, journalists, and rival commentators. Analysts noted inconsistencies between Diddy's previous statements and the newly released Netflix material, some subtle, others glaring. What had once been considered a carefully managed story now felt fragile, vulnerable, even exposed. Inside the office, Marcus Linton called an urgent strategy meeting. The conference room buzzed with tension. Monitors displayed side-by-side footage comparisons, highlighting every discrepancy. A phrase here, a nod there, a pause that suggested hesitation. It was meticulous work, but with each revelation, the pressure intensified. These aren't just minor differences, Marcus said, his tone sharp. Every contradiction could be weaponized, legally, publicly, and socially. We need a response before this escalates beyond control. Vanessa Cole, the PR lead, leaned forward, scrolling through the latest social trends. It's already trending globally, she said, voice tense. Even mainstream media is picking up on it. We're watching our past statements being questioned like never before. People aren't just reacting, they're judging. And they're relentless. She paused, pointing at a viral clip where Diddy's tone in a past interview directly conflicted with his words in the Netflix footage. This one, if we don't address it, it'll be a wildfire we can't contain. The team knew that the contradictions weren't isolated incidents. Each clip compounded the narrative. A story previously under control was now fracturing. Analysts highlighted shifts in Diddy's tone and body language across interviews, contrasting them with the Netflix footage. Lawyers debated whether some statements could be construed as misleading or contradictory under legal scrutiny. The room grew heavy with urgency, as if each second of hesitation risked further damage. Meanwhile, the media landscape became a battlefield. News outlets rushed to break down the footage, dissecting every frame for insight. Podcasts analyzed word choice and emphasis, while online forums speculated about motives and consequences. Every mention of Diddy's name fueled the fire, and social media amplified interpretations faster than the team could respond. Each trending topic felt like another layer of scrutiny piling onto an already unstable structure. Diddy himself appeared calm, but the lines of tension were visible on his face. He understood that this was no ordinary PR crisis. The contradictions in the footage weren't just embarrassing, they threatened to alter public perception in ways that could ripple across his entire career. He paced slowly, fingers interlaced, as Marcus outlined the next steps. Full legal review, internal audits of past statements, and a strategic communication plan. Every word mattered, every reaction counted. The contradictions also introduced a psychological element to the crisis. Fans and critics alike began to question authenticity and integrity. What had once been viewed as charisma and strategic genius now invited skepticism. Analysts speculated, had Diddy knowingly misrepresented events, or were these discrepancies innocent misstatements? The ambiguity fueled discussion and debate, making the story impossible to contain. In private discussions, staff debated the most effective way to regain control. Some suggested immediate public clarification. Others argued for a slow, measured response. But the truth was undeniable. The narrative was no longer theirs to dictate. Social media trends, viral posts, and news cycles dictated the pace, leaving the team constantly reacting. Each decision felt like walking a tightrope over an audience that demanded answers while ready to pounce on any misstep. By evening, the scope of the contradictions had become alarming. Legal counsel flagged several statements that, if scrutinized further, could lead to litigation or regulatory challenges. PR strategists projected potential fallout in both domestic and international markets. Meanwhile, fans continued to dissect, debate, and speculate, driving engagement with relentless speed. Every clip shared, every hashtag posted, intensified the pressure. Despite the chaos, one thing became clear. The team's unity and strategic foresight were being tested like never before. Each member felt the weight of responsibility, knowing that a single misstep could exacerbate the crisis. Marcus emphasized vigilance, Vanessa prioritized media monitoring, and Diddy silently prepared to address the world. The contradictions weren't just discrepancies, they were a storm threatening to upend carefully built reputations. As night fell, the office remained lit, a fortress of screens and glowing monitors where the team worked tirelessly to analyze, strategize, and respond. Outside, the digital world continued its relentless pulse, amplifying the footage, dissecting each inconsistency, and speculating on the unseen consequences. For Diddy's team, Part 2 of the crisis had only just begun, and the real challenge, rebuilding trust and controlling the narrative, loomed larger than ever. The night had grown thick with tension as Diddy's team continued their exhaustive review of the Netflix footage. Each frame, each expression, each word was dissected under the harsh glow of monitors, revealing discrepancies that seemed minor in isolation but threatening when seen in sequence. What had been a controlled narrative now felt like sand slipping through their fingers, slipping faster than any public statement could be issued. Inside the office, discussions grew heated. Marcus Linton slammed his hand against the conference table, breaking the tense silence. "We need to stop reacting and start strategizing. Every contradiction we ignore becomes another weapon for the press and the public. Every second of hesitation is amplified online." His voice echoed off the walls, filled with urgency. Vanessa Cole, ever the calm presence, countered, "If we respond too quickly, we risk making the situation worse. We need precision, not panic. Every word has to be measured." While the team debated, the media frenzy outside continued its unrelenting pace. Podcasts aired frame-by-frame breakdowns, highlighting inconsistencies that Diddy had allegedly presented in prior interviews. News outlets called in experts to analyze tone, body language, and implied intentions. Social media algorithms, programmed for engagement, fed on the storm, amplifying outrage and curiosity in equal measure. Fans began to question not just the events, but the very integrity of Diddy's public persona. It was a crisis that cut deeper than PR. It was existential. Meanwhile, Diddy retreated to a private corner of the office, reflecting on the impact of the contradictions. He knew the footage alone wasn't necessarily damning, but perception is often stronger than reality. Public trust, once eroded, is difficult to rebuild. He considered the statements he had made, the intentions behind them, and the subtle shifts in tone that might now be interpreted as deception. It was a moment of clarity and of reckoning. The team's legal advisors now played a more prominent role. They flagged statements that could be interpreted as misleading, emphasizing potential exposure to lawsuits, defamation claims, or regulatory scrutiny. Every legal document, every past interview transcript was cross-referenced with the Netflix footage. Marcus realized the severity. This wasn't just a PR crisis. It was a full-scale reputational battle with legal undertones that could last months, if not years. Yet, within the tension, there were signs of resilience. Vanessa suggested proactive measures, a controlled media release, selective interviews with trusted journalists, and a strategic social media campaign. Her plan was clear: acknowledge certain contradictions without overexposing vulnerabilities, then shift focus toward verified achievements and philanthropic efforts that could reframe public perception. Marcus nodded, though unease lingered in his eyes. Every move now had to anticipate scrutiny at a microscopic level. The contradictions had also affected internal dynamics. Team members, normally cohesive, began to fracture under pressure. Junior staff expressed anxiety over leaks and social media backlash, while senior advisors argued over the timing and tone of public statements. The office, usually filled with energy and purpose, now buzzed with tension, unease, and a heightened sense of urgency. Every decision felt monumental, every misstep potentially catastrophic. As the night deepened, analysts highlighted another dimension of the problem: narrative control. Contradictions weren't just legal or PR issues, they influenced storytelling itself. Each clip seemed to tell a slightly different story, challenging the consistency of Diddy's image. The public wasn't simply consuming information, they were interrogating it, interpreting nuance, and constructing alternative narratives. This shift in control was critical. The audience was no longer passive, it was active, engaged, and influential. The team decided to implement a dual-track approach. Legally, they would prepare for potential fallout while reviewing all statements for accuracy. Publicly, they would craft measured communications to address the contradictions indirectly, emphasizing transparency and accountability without admitting fault. Social media teams began drafting posts, carefully choosing language to balance acknowledgement with defense. The office felt like a war room, screens glowing like battlefield maps, each clip analyzed as if it were a strategic target. Meanwhile, outside observers speculated endlessly. Every interview, every post, every subtle gesture from Diddy was scrutinized. Fans debated, influencers weighed in, journalists predicted consequences, and rivals relished the unfolding drama. The contradictions in the footage had ignited a storm, one that refused to subside. Even as the office prepared its response, the digital world moved faster, each update a reminder that perception could often outweigh fact. By the early hours, exhaustion mingled with determination. The team knew that today was only the beginning of a prolonged battle to regain control of the narrative. Each contradiction in the footage was a challenge to be met, not just with words, but with strategy, legal foresight, and a careful understanding of public psychology. The office, though tense, remained focused, united by the urgency of the moment. They knew that the contradictions had changed the game, but the game was not yet lost. By dawn, the ripple effect of the Netflix footage had become undeniable. News outlets had not only dissected contradictions, they were now framing them as systemic issues, questioning the credibility of every prior statement from Diddy and his team. Social media had transformed into a battlefield, where every hashtag was a weapon and every comment a potential escalation. Analysts predicted long-term reputational damage if the contradictions were not addressed immediately and strategically. Inside Diddy's headquarters, the mood was tense but calculated. Senior advisors convened a special meeting to reassess allies and potential vulnerabilities. Vanessa Cole, who had become the anchor of clarity, began listing stakeholders: investors, sponsors, collaborators, and high-profile friends whose support could either stabilize the situation or amplify the fallout. "We need to understand who can be mobilized quickly and who might distance themselves if pressure mounts," she emphasized. Marcus Linton nodded, understanding that in crises of this magnitude, perception is currency and loyalty is fragile. The footage itself became the focal point of every conversation. Analysts highlighted key moments where prior statements did not align with what appeared on camera. Some clips were ambiguous, open to interpretation, while others were undeniable. Each contradiction carried weight, and each had potential to ignite a narrative beyond control. Every detail mattered: a hesitation, a glance, a choice of words. The team realized they were dealing with more than public relations. They were navigating an intricate maze of optics, emotion, and legal risk. Outside, adversaries began to emerge. Former collaborators, competitors, and opportunistic commentators seized the moment. They highlighted inconsistencies, sometimes exaggerating them, and framed the unfolding drama as proof of deception or mismanagement. Every report or social media post seemed to spark new waves of commentary, multiplying the reach of the original footage. Even well-meaning observers added to the noise, sharing theories, dissecting intentions, and speculating on consequences. The contradictions had become a catalyst for a larger narrative that could no longer be contained. Within the office, tension was compounded by the sheer speed of information flow. Every media outlet, social platform, and digital influencer contributed to an environment where timing was critical. Marcus urged the team to prioritize rapid fact-checking and verification. "We can't control everything, but we can control the accuracy of what we release," he insisted. Vanessa, ever meticulous, added, "And we must ensure the tone aligns with our overall strategy: accountable, transparent, yet composed. Any misstep will be amplified tenfold. Meanwhile, Diddy himself observed the storm from a quiet corner. He recognized that contradictions were only part of the challenge. Perception often outweighed reality. A public misreading of tone, intent, or context could spiral into a crisis far beyond what the footage itself suggested. He reflected on every interview, every statement, every carefully constructed narrative, and realized that, despite preparation, public scrutiny always introduces uncertainty. The weight of expectation, amplified by fame, was relentless. The team also had to contend with internal dynamics. Staff members were fatigued, some visibly shaken by the pressure. Debates over messaging grew intense, as junior staff worried about exposure, and senior advisors weighed potential legal implications. Disagreements were inevitable, but cohesion remained essential. Vanessa proposed a framework: divide tasks into media strategy, legal oversight, and digital monitoring. Each team would focus on its area while maintaining alignment, ensuring that no contradictory signals were inadvertently sent. As the day progressed, the office became a hub of controlled urgency. Analysts monitored trends and sentiment shifts across platforms, legal advisors flagged statements for potential liability, and the communications team drafted drafts for public release. Every decision was calculated, every word scrutinized. The goal was clear: regain narrative control before the domino effect of contradictions cascaded further. Yet the team understood that not all fallout could be managed. Public perception was unpredictable, and every move could be interpreted in multiple ways. The contradictions in the footage had exposed vulnerabilities, both real and perceived, that would remain part of the discourse. Allies could reinforce credibility, but adversaries could exploit every misstep. In this environment, precision, patience, and psychological insight were as critical as speed. By evening, a tentative strategy emerged. The team would issue a calibrated statement acknowledging the complexity of events without conceding fault, emphasize verified accomplishments, and highlight philanthropic initiatives to reinforce Diddy's positive public image. Social media posts were drafted with surgical care, anticipating both praise and criticism. Each message was a chess move, carefully placed to protect credibility while shaping perception. The day concluded with a sense of cautious determination. Contradictions remained a threat, but the team had begun to adapt, balancing legal, strategic, and psychological considerations. They knew the battle for public trust was ongoing, and each subsequent step would require vigilance. The dominoes had started to fall, but the game was far from over. Every choice from this point forward would carry weight, shaping not only the immediate response but the long-term legacy of Diddy's brand and career. As the days turned into a tense week, the impact of the Netflix footage had fully rippled across every corner of the media landscape. Diddy's team, now operating under an intensified microscope, realized that the contradictions were no longer isolated incidents. They had become a defining element of the public conversation. Headlines framed them as evidence of inconsistency. Analysts dissected interviews minute by minute. Fans and critics alike debated what was truth and what was spin. The atmosphere was one of relentless scrutiny, and it was clear that how the team responded in the coming hours could define the trajectory of Diddy's career for years to come. In the war room, energy was both frenetic and precise. Vanessa Cole began consolidating all verified facts, creating a master document of timelines, statements, and media appearances. Everything goes in here. If it's verifiable, it stays. Anything ambiguous, we either clarify or omit, she instructed. Legal advisors cross-referenced every public statement against the footage, ensuring that nothing could be construed as legally compromising. Marcus Linton emphasized the importance of tone and messaging. We're not just correcting, we're guiding perception. Every word shapes the narrative. The room, once tense and fragmented, now moved with synchronized intensity. Meanwhile, Diddy himself faced the weight of public expectation and personal reflection. The footage had cast him in a light he hadn't anticipated, exposing gaps between perception and intention. He knew that defending credibility required more than statements. It demanded consistency, transparency, and action. Interviews were strategically scheduled, philanthropic endeavors highlighted, and carefully crafted social media posts deployed. Each move was designed to remind the public of his influence, integrity, and long-term commitment to his community, even as critics sought to focus solely on contradictions. Externally, reactions varied widely. Fans remained fiercely loyal, interpreting the contradictions as minor missteps blown out of proportion by sensationalist media. Others were skeptical, questioning motives and credibility. Competing narratives emerged, with some framing Diddy as a misunderstood figure under relentless media pressure, while others painted him as deliberately evasive. The team realized that winning hearts and minds required balancing authenticity with strategy, and the line between overexposure and silence was razor thin. The legal dimension also intensified. Attorneys monitored ongoing discourse, prepared for potential litigation, and advised on the implications of each statement. Any misstep could trigger lawsuits or regulatory scrutiny. At the same time, digital monitoring teams tracked sentiment, engagement, and emerging trends across platforms, providing real-time intelligence to guide every message. The process was exhaustive, but in the realm of high-stakes public perception, precision was non-negotiable. One afternoon, Vanessa convened a final strategy session. "We need to pivot from reaction to proactivity," she said. "Acknowledgement is part of the solution, but so is showcasing our narrative in a way that reinforces credibility and vision." The plan included a limited public appearance where Diddy would address the contradictions, coupled with a behind-the-scenes feature highlighting his work and personal ethos. Every element was orchestrated to demonstrate accountability, humanity, and focus qualities designed to shift the conversation from controversy to context. Execution began immediately. Carefully curated clips from past philanthropic projects, studio sessions, and interviews were released alongside Diddy's statements. The messaging emphasized lessons learned, reinforced commitment to artistic and social contributions, and subtly reframed past inconsistencies as misunderstandings rather than deception. Social media engagement spiked, and while commentary remained divided, a clearer narrative began to emerge, one that balanced accountability with continued influence. Despite this, the team knew the aftermath would be a long-term challenge. Trust, once questioned, cannot be instantly restored. Every subsequent project, public appearance, and statement would be filtered through the lens of the recent controversy. Diddy's influence was intact, but credibility required continual reinforcement. Strategic patience, measured transparency, and relentless attention to messaging would remain essential tools for navigating the evolving public landscape. In the final analysis, the Netflix footage had created a crucible. It revealed vulnerabilities, tested alliances, and forced a recalibration of strategy. Yet it also provided an opportunity, a moment to demonstrate resilience, adaptability, and authenticity in the face of scrutiny. Diddy's team emerged from the ordeal with a renewed focus on alignment, clarity, and proactive storytelling, understanding that the battle for public perception was ongoing, fluid, and as much about psychology as it was about facts. By the week's end, the storm had not completely passed, but momentum was shifting. Audiences began to engage with the narrative in a more nuanced way, acknowledging complexity rather than simply condemning contradictions. The team remained vigilant, knowing that recovery was not a single event, but a sustained effort. In the world of high-profile influence, perception often defines reality, and navigating that reality with precision had become the ultimate measure of success. Diddy himself reflected quietly on the lessons learned. That power brings scrutiny, that contradictions can ignite crises, but that measured, strategic responses rooted in authenticity, accountability, and foresight can restore balance. The journey through chaos had been exhaustive, but it had also reaffirmed the importance of vision, leadership, and resilience in the ever-watchful eye of the public.